Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Afternoon, guys. So I had an interesting night. I was waiting in my driveway to flag down some friends who were visiting me from out of town, and two cars randomly pulled up. One pulls into my driveway. A guy gets out and starts howling at me that I keyed his wife's car, and that he ought to slam my head on his hood. Without another word, I walk inside, clip my Smith & Wesson 9mm holster onto my belt, and go back outside. This guy's demeanor visibly changes, and he just starts belting out that he had footage of me keying his car that he got from a Walmart parking lot, and that the keying did $2,500 of damage. It is then when I realize the other car still in the street had a woman and two kids, both younger than 5, in the back seat. I what hard, and start asking this guy what kind of crazy do you have to be to drive around looking for a guy to threaten at 10 at night with his kids. He starts raging and telling me he's calling the cops because I'm threatening him with a gun. Note that I haven't drawn it or anything, it's just sitting in its holster, loaded. I should note I live in Arizona, but anyway, he starts throwing out petty threats like, "You won't always have that on you, and I bet you don't even have anything in it, and he has a 40 that will fuck your shit up." Meanwhile, I took photos of both cars' plates, and tell him, no cursing, kids were near, to get out of my driveway, or I'll call the cops. He eventually leaves after threatening to fuck up my car. Friends show up as this debacle is ending. I'm pretty shaken up about it, because this is the first time I got in a possible self-defense situation. I know this is K, not legal advice, and I know I'm within my rights to carry a loaded weapon in my state. But I can't help but think this is gonna bite me in the ass. Could K make me feel better?
Make sure you find out his address in a way that won't tip police off. If he's more than just a common variety idiot, he could be a genuine threat to you. On the occasions this has happened to me, I've always done my best to find out where they live first. Then from there, find out where they work and places they hang out. This is important because if they're dangerous and think they're connected to other badass people, you need to be able to recognize someone he might conceivably send your way to execute his revenge without him being in the picture. This is just as a precaution, rather than to be paranoid. You don't want to have to hold your breath waiting for the police to pull extra shifts to protect you. It saved my ass one time, and I routinely advise people to do it so that they always have the element of surprise. Just don't loiter or overly spy, or they might just call the cops on you.
Post times you've had to draw your firearm for whatever reason. Hanging out with roommates and some girls in my apartment, some guy on the street outside is making lots of noise, so we go look. He's screaming and kicking cars and jumping on hoods and busting down lamps. He appeared to be at the very least blackout drunk, but likely on some drugs. Our cars are parked out back, so we decide not to get into a dangerous situation unless he goes in the back or unless he seriously damages a car. Suddenly, two girls from another apartment go out there to talk to him. "OMG, what are you doing?" He is full rage and we think he might attack her, so we run outside and tell the girls to go inside and we try to calm the guy down. There are 3 of us guys. He is nonsensical, but he goes inside to an apartment across the street, so we figure he's done. Nope.jpg. Dude comes out with an axe and starts walking towards us. Nope.jpg. Run upstairs, have girls call cops, and arm ourselves with a 12-gauge pump, an SKS, and a .270 Winchester. Dude comes upstairs and our door was really flimsy wood, but he mills around and leaves as cops arrive, who arrest him. We almost had to blow away an axe-wielding psycho at our door.
I got one for you. Not the same kind of confrontation, but similar context about the family. Don't know if it will make you feel better, but I'll give it a shot. Also won't post the whole thing unless you guys tell me you want to hear the rest because it's a bit long and will take multiple posts. Here goes. I was camping in a very remote volcanic area that just doesn't get other people. Brought several guns with me for small game hunting and defense from pot growers. On the way back to civilization, I camped again to wait for pickup. Went to the creek to draw water and catch some trout. And while I was gone, some asshole rolled my campsite, stole my .22 rifle and ammo, and got away. Don't know how he did, but he did. I knew the perp had to be local to know the pickup area well enough to even stand a chance of locating my camp. So I returned later to see if I might be lucky enough to hear the sound of the SOB shooting my Marlin 70, and sure enough I did. 7 shots, silence. 7 shots, silence. 7 shots, silence. Same loads too, had both subsonic 40s and 32 grain CCIs, and the combo of them both was too much for coincidence. I was prepared to deal with the situation and tracked sounds to the source. The perp turned out to be a retired gangbanger. Age plus physical plus tattoos indicated this, teaching his 15, 16-year-old kids how to shoot my .22. Noticing the suspicion on my face, he told me he moved from a nearby city, which is the only reason he would have been in that area. I let him know in vague terms his kids wouldn't understand that he was lucky he brought them, and made out like I thought he'd just found it so they wouldn't think I was stealing from their dad. Then I decided to show them a good time by making rapid-fire hits on a distant stump with a couple mags of AK. Then I went through gun safety and manual of arms and handed it to his daughter to shoot first. Her dad, of course, didn't have the balls to resist and remained silent. After she blew off a few rounds, I handed it to his son. He didn't really seem comfortable with guns, but shot a few. I knew their nervous dad would decline because he couldn't shoot me in front of his kids, and also didn't want to look like a noob in front of them either, so I offered anyway to shame him further. The look on their dad's face was priceless, and to this day I sometimes wonder if he really understands how lucky he is. There's a lot more to that story, Lowell, but that was the short version of my confrontation with him. Confrontation with the sheriff's department came after. Ha ha ha. Oh, memories. So I'm still waiting for my pickup, which decides to forget the fact that I'm there. Found out later their vehicle broke down, and so I had to remain camping for a couple days, no big deal. Well, it turns out that shithead returned home and related the incident to his wife, who realized that I had complete control over the situation and could exact real retribution against him with impunity if I chose to. She had no idea how right she was, because it turned out that I now had the time to locate his house with his gangbangerized SUV parked in front of it, but they didn't know this one way or the other. It turned out she 911 her bullshit proxy version of events, and the sheriffs didn't show up for another 2 days. Predictably, God thought I needed to be stuck there long enough to be fucked with again, and so, predictably, the sheriffs showed up 2 days later. The problem was that they didn't come alone. They decided to bring the whole drug task force because he and his wife told them that I had a weed pipe in my tent, which I did. It's genuinely my pain medication, and I don't abuse it or grow it either. Everything went downhill from there. The sheriffs decided that he'd just found the .22 after all, because he couldn't possibly be lying about finding my campsite abandoned. So of course the law understood why he took the .22 with him and didn't turn it in like a good citizen. No, they understood fully and mounted their version of an operation, which fortunately for me wasn't worth a squirt of baby piss. So, still waiting, I started hearing the sounds of multiple vehicles coming up the mountain and realized that it wasn't my pickup. Not alarmed but confused, I sat there cooking trout and squirrels and reading a book. Didn't take too long for me to detect the distant sounds of poorly trained people setting up their flank before approaching. So naturally I puckered up and hauled ass to spot to surveil whatever was coming. Their get-ups are all special forces and the like, but I recognized one guy as a professional and decided to step lightly with him since I really didn't know what was going on though. I obviously suspected it had something to do with Thug Boy. After I saw them file toward my campsite from only one direction, oops, being a noob sucks only when you're aware of it, I guess, I decided to end the whole thing and came out of hiding. After setting my weapons out of sight, I sat right back down again to finish lunch. They showed up a couple minutes later pretending they'd just caught Osama bin Laden and started grilling me about all kinds of shit. Where's the gun? Where did you hide it? Where's the marijuana at? Talk quick or you're gonna regret it. And all that. I explained that it belongs to me, and its location would remain my business until they explained their probable cause. Then I was forced to embarrass the shit out of them by explaining that not only do I not grow pot, but that I'd been doing their jobs for them for years by destroying the grow ops all over Gifford Pinchot that they like to pretend aren't there. This seemed to bother their boss, who was the only professional in the group and who happened to be in plain clothes. The point of all this is that the guy and his wife indicated the site was abandoned, which was why taking the 22 was legal. They explained to him that I'd made veiled threats against him and that they were afraid for their children's safety, which was utterly ridiculous. They didn't ask why he didn't turn it in and assumed that the presence of my medicine pipe was evidence that I was guarding a grow site. That's why they mounted the operation they did, because they wanted a big bust to make themselves look good, and they were willing to let a gun thief get away with it so they could accomplish this. The remainder of the story was that I was taken into custody, obviously because they wouldn't have believed me no matter what was going on. They confiscated my weapons plus ammo plus gear, and I spent the next month or so in jail waiting to appear before a judge while the prosecutor tried to figure out what the hell was going on.
Jesus, did you finally get your stuff back?
Yeah, I eventually got my weapons back. Basically, I had to sign a contract with the prosecutor that I would assist the drug task force after they let me out by showing them the grow site locations they already knew were there. Ask me how I know this. I agreed and intended to fully comply, but they never did ask. I found out later why. A Leo directly involved in this, who I won't identify here, had a brother who happened to be the biggest pot and pill distributor in that corner of the county. He also found out that I found out, and basically said, "You're cool with me, bro. If you don't force me to, I'll never mess with you again. Sorry for the trouble." They ended up getting me on a poaching charge because they found a grouse head remaining from my dinner the previous day. They never prosecuted Thug Boy for giving a false report to police, but I did catch 2 of them scouting the area the next year. I actually saw them pick up my 7.62 casings from all the ammo I dumped into the gravity barrels and equipment that was abandoned. I fucked up a lot of grow sites around there over the years, and the only real reason I started doing this was because in an unrelated story, I was nearly killed by some cartel when I bumped into theirs. But anyway, I had to threaten to sue them before they'd give the AK or the ammo back, and they finally complied. I don't go to that area from the same direction anymore. Learned my fucking lesson. Allow me to make a correction. I was initially up on poaching charges, but I told them I was going to make them piss themselves if they didn't drop it to hunting without a license. They were more than happy to comply.
Sent out to get beer for my old man, driving back on the country roads at night. See someone walking along the side of the street in a hoodie. Hit him with the headlights. It's Shithead. I know Shithead. I don't like Shithead. He's a dick. Still, it's cool and late, and my parents taught me to be neighborly. Put my loaded Smith & Wesson Model 15 in my jacket pocket. Get out. He's acting a little cagey and has something in his hoodie. Ask him if he needs a ride. Cat's head immediately pops out of his jacket and meows at me. That's my black cat Shadow. Let my cat go. Fuck you, man, I got a knife. Draw and cock the hammer. I've got a smith, a shovel, and a lot of land. His face win. Shadow takes off running to me and gets right in my car like the good boy he always was. Shithead runs like a punk. Deliver the beer and hang out on the deck with my cat. End up having to explain what happened to the sheriff. Shithead was an edgy little freak who sacrificed animals to the devil. Apparently, black cats like my Shadow are most pleasing to the Dark Overlord. Sheriff says Shithead had it coming and leaves. Bro tier Leo. I was 17 at the time. Years later, I found out Shithead did the world a favor and off himself. My cat outlived him by a month. Not the only time I drew a firearm, but it was the only time I aimed it at a person. And in Shithead's case, I use that word very loosely.
Oh God, tell us more about Shithead.
Shithead was in the same class as me. My first girlfriend actually used to be his friend in elementary school, but according to her, he got too weird and angry and depressed. Apparently, his mother was a real Rosie O'Donnell, and his dad had no spine. At some point late in middle school, Shithead and some other kids started worshiping Satan and moved up to sacrificing animals by sophomore year. I always heard rumors, but never got confirmation until that night. He off himself when he was 22. He was working at some crappy fast food restaurant and was still a minion of Satan or some shit. I guess he felt his life was worthless, not entirely wrong, and decided to end it all. He hung himself one night after work. At least that's how I heard it.
Not nearly as interesting as yours. But when I was 16, a rancher my father knew let me camp on his ranch for a few weeks one summer to help him deal with a coyote problem. So I got all my Boy Scout and camping stuff together, borrowed my dad's old .222 Remington bolt action, and brought my A1 pattern H-bar 16-inch AR carbine and my 10/22 as well, just for shits. The rancher offered me $50 each per coyote I killed on his ranch. I ended up getting 17 of them, and sold their pelts to a semi-local fur trader that sold all sorts of westerny Wild West shit to the baller and usually international tourists that like to flock to the nearest town. The rancher gave me an old Honda 3-wheeled ATV to get around, since I didn't know how to ride a horse. After the first 4 days, I broke down my camp and loaded it all up onto this ATV, and headed into town using dirt ranch roads and off-the-beaten-path back roads to get to this fur trader away from the eyes of countless tourists and away from cops that like to harass you for driving on ATVs even though everyone in that area does it. After getting there, I realized I didn't want to leave my firearms on the ATV while I was inside, so I slung all 3 of them over my back and walked into the trader's place with a double armful of 6 coyote pelts to sell. Things were just fine. The trader knew I was coming. But as he was inspecting the pelts, 2 early 40s-looking European women that were decked out in $5,000 worth of Santa Fe trinkets started worriedly whispering in some Swedish, Estonian-sounding language back and forth. I figured they'd just never seen a guy walk into a store with pelts to sell with rifles on his back, so I didn't think about it. After coming to a deal for all the pelts and BSing about hunting and shooting, and the trader offering me a handsome sum for my dad's old gun, I walked outside of the store only to find 5 police cars of various sorts, including 2 state cops, and 7 or 8 police officers all pouring over the ATV, and once I walked out, all of them drew their weapons and started yelling at me to get down, etc. They take all 3 rifles off of my back. I'm 16 and all I can think is, oh my god, I'm gonna get shot. Oh my god, etc. After getting cuffed and thrown in the back of a state trooper's Crown Vic and sitting for 20 minutes, the local sheriff comes over and opens the door and asks me the usual, "Where are you from? What are you doing? Why do you have those weapons, etc.?" And I tell them everything. The store owner guy totally supports my story, and at this point I hadn't even fired my AR yet on that trip. It was spotlessly clean on the inside, and all of my ammo was still in boxes, a locked plastic trunk on the back of the ATV. I only had a mag in it to keep the dirt out of it. Turns out, of course, some tourists called the police and told them that some young guy was raising hell on an ATV and firing a machine gun from it while it was moving. After some more paperwork and telling my story again and again to 3 other cops, they gave me back my stuff and let me go. The fur trader store owner gave me a free double rifle case to help mitigate bullshit in the future, which was a nice touch. I still have the case. I left the rifles in there from that point forward unless I was on the ranch, and I never had another problem. Damn, sounds like that could have gotten nasty. Do you know if the tourists were ever charged with filing a false police report? I hear over and over and over again that police departments constantly drop the ball on shit like that. I can never figure out why.
I have no idea. I got a litany of shit from one of the state cops for even having a pre-ban AR-15. This was 97 or 98. Assault weapons ban was in full effect, saying, "You can't hunt with an assault rifle, son," etc., etc., even though I made it clear and had proof that I was killing coyotes, which aren't protected at all in my state, so I could use a minigun from a helicopter if I wanted to, but that I'd only brought my AR to shoot it occasionally for fun, just like the 10/22 I had. They also tried to ding me for being a minor in possession of 3 firearms, but they were all rifles, and I had a brand spanking new hunter safety card and a fishing license, so ultimately, there wasn't shit they could do. They also didn't give me back the rifles directly. They gave them to the store owner and told him to only give them back to my dad. He just waited for them to leave and he handed them right over, in that case I'd mentioned earlier. I never did hear about who reported it, or why though. But after all was said and done, I'd spent about 2 weeks on a beautiful ranch hiking around with a rifle every day, eating fresh coyote meat every night, given an ATV with all the gas I could want, and I left that ranch with a bit over $1,500 between the $50 coyote from the rancher and the money I was paid for the pelts by the trader. Later went towards buying my first car. Such is life in the Southwest, at least, before Columbine and 9/11 got people freaking out 3 times as bad about evil babby-killing rifles into hands of kids.
I carry concealed P226. Doorbell rings. Some guy wants to sell me a phone book. I tell him I'm not interested. He persists and puts his foot between the door. I push him. He needs to rebalance himself with that foot, so I close the door. He starts screaming that he'll attack my wife and whatnot. I scream that he should go away or I would call the cops. He tells me he's going to slash my tires. I went to the window to see if he was bullshitting me. He actually pulls a knife and has a go with my vehicle. I open the front door and yell stop while I'm dialing on my phone. He turns around and comes for me. I pull my gun on him because he's holding a knife. He stays put and drops his knife. I tell him to throw his wallet so that the cops won't have to search him when they arrive. He throws it. I pick it up while I hold him at gunpoint. I take out any dollar bills he had on him, little more than 200. He yells that he's being mugged. I shoot him in the kneecap because I thought nobody was looking. He screams. Call the cops. Tell them I shot someone in self-defense. Cops came to pick him up. Knife had initials in them. It belonged to him. One eyewitness saw me shoot him. It's my neighbor, some guy in his 70s. He testifies that he attacked me with the knife, says nothing about the money I took. Later at home, I go by the neighbor's house and put an envelope with some of the money in his letterbox. We became best of friends.
From a bad part of town. Tender young age of 14. Goddamn neighbor's trailer trash kids are messing with a walnut tree that's up against the side of our house. They decide to try and light it on fire with a can of body spray and a lighter. I'm not having any of this. No, sir. Go grab the shotgun. Ancient Royal Arms side-by-side 12-gauge. And a handful of shells. Politely tell them to stop and leave while holding the shotgun. You ain't gonna do nothing, that ain't a real gun, etc. Load 2 shells and politely repeat myself. You get dad at Toys R Us or something, etc. Aim to the side of them at an old spare building of ours. An outhouse, really, that we didn't use anymore or really care about. Put 1 round into the spare building. They didn't expect such a loud bang. They look behind them at the spare building with its brand new buckshot patterning. They look at me pointing the shotgun at them. They haul ass out of there. Lounging around the house, hear noise downstairs. I'm the only one in the house and nobody's due back for several days. The cat is accounted for, so it wasn't her. Go have a look out of the window. A couple of fucks with hoodies and shirts for masks are busy carrying shit out of the front door to a box truck. Not having this. No, sir. Write down the plate number and the phone number on the side of the truck. Grab a pistol, nickel-plated Colt 1911, and go downstairs to say hello. I greet our visitors barrel first. I tell them to drop what they are holding and put their hands on their heads. They comply with the first part. Several items are now broken from having been dropped on the floor. They nope right on out of the front door and speed off in the truck. Bonus, the cops never found out who they were, despite me giving them a plate number and the phone number on the side of the truck. Lazy shits. Walking home from a friend's house after a good hard binge that followed a day of range fuckery. Pleasantly hammered. Wearing a shoulder bag with my latest gun purchase, Walther PPKS inside. Range fuckery was to enjoy the new pistol, but since we wanted to drink afterwards, I blew through all the ammunition so I wouldn't be toting around a pistol plus ammo while smashed. Most of the way back, I get approached by a group of 4 hicks, try to ignore them. They pace me, one guy is being really friendly while the others just watch me. 2 guys are now behind me, 1 on each side. Oh shit, I'm about to get rolled. Friendly guy asks if I want to come with them and have some beers. Say no, try to move away. Guys behind me grab me. Okay, don't hurt me, what do you want, wallet, phone, etc. Reach into my bag to get my wallet. Pull the PPKS pointed at Mr. Friendly. Gun. The guys behind me and the friendly one scatter. The remaining one tries to rush me. I'm too drunk to try and do something fancy, so he tackles me head on. I go down hard. My stomach, after a hard day's bottle of whiskey and stress from the most recent events, combined with taking a massive tackle head-on from a redneck, is not having any of this. No, sir. I puke right into his face. I think his mouth was open. That's fucking nasty. He does not take this well. Starts beating the shit out of me. Car is coming down the road. He sees it, grabs my bag, and takes off. He didn't grab the PPKS. Phew. Want me to start getting into the crazier ones?
Shit sucks. Why didn't you shoot them also? What did they take?
A bunch of electronics and some valuables. I didn't shoot them because they ran. Castle doctrine is all well and good, but it's still hard to explain a bullet in the ass to a jury. Bonus story. Not me, but my dad. B6. My dad sees someone in the back field at night. This has apparently been an ongoing issue. But what the hell did I know? I was 6. I later find out it was people doing drug deals. Cops had been called about this before, nothing done. Dad is not having any of this. No, sir. He decides to give them a spook. I use spook for a reason. Dad's a Fed. I don't remember it clearly, 6, but I do remember him leaving the house in all black with a balaclava, carrying his M16, A2, and wearing a suppressed pistol, not sure which one it was, on his hip and some kind of goggles. I mean, he was full fucking tack ninja. This was back in the 80s before it became vogue. Claims all he did was go out and ask them to leave politely. They never come back. I found out 15 years later that he apparently went out and shot out the windshield of one of their trucks, then told them, quote, "You'd better start running."
This happened last year. Be at my parents' house. Really nice house in a really nice neighborhood that has break-in problems. My dad had offered to pay half the cost of making it a gated community, but HOA voted against it. Parents are out of town and my buddies are over drinking. Pizza finally got there at like 8 o'clock. In my famished state, I forgot to shut the gate to our driveway, like 50 yards of driveway. Normally, wouldn't have mattered. Since my parents had been gone, the house probably looked empty. I didn't really go anywhere or even turn on any lights. 11:30 p.m., raining outside. We have a bell that dings when someone pulls in the driveway. Shit dings. Peek out the window, see a car at the end of the drive. They're probably just turning around, go back to drinking and shit. 5 minutes later, ding. Look out the window. Same car at the end of the drive, headlights off. Okay. Now we're all concerned. I told them there had been 2 break-ins on our street that week. "What do we do?" one of them asked. We wait. 10 minutes goes by. Car keeps pulling up and then back down the drive, going about halfway. Got sick of the bell, so I turned it off. Car finally pulls all the way up the drive after a full 25 minutes of this shit. It sits there. One friend said, "Maybe they're lost." I tell him maybe they're not. Tell him I'm getting a gun. Return to window. Can't see into car, but rims indicate gang members. "Maybe you should go ask them if they're lost." Tell him I don't feel like walking out in the rain, seeing the window roll down and staring down a high point. "Take your AR with you then." Well, first, what if they're lost? That would be terrible. Second, how would that keep them from greeting me with a gun barrel? So, what do? We wait. If they come out armed, we waste them. If they don't, then whatever. Decide to turn on the lamp in the foyer and walk through with the gun on my back. They can now see me for sure. Car leaves immediately. We were scouted for a break-in. D. Did I play that right? /K/?
Okay, I'll just cut to the big one to save time. Have moved to an apartment, college off campus, summer well past midnight, lounging around naked, because fuck you, it was hot out, that's why. Someone knocks on my bedroom door. My roommates never knock. Ever. Hear talking and muffled giggling. Grab the machete I keep behind my door, hold it behind the door, and answer. 2 random dudes are there. They ask me something like if so-so, George maybe, lives here. They are slurring heavily. There is blood on the wall. This is my bedroom door, not the front door of the apartment. They are obviously on something stronger than alcohol. I tell them no. Ask them what they're doing here. More mumbled slurs. The roommates come around the corner of the hall, attracted by the noise. Oh, maybe these are friends of the roommates? Who the fuck are you? Guess not. At this point, fun stuff starts. I ask roomies if they know these clowns, and vice versa. Nope. One roommate is right on top of this shit. This is a private residence. You 2 need to leave. Now. One of the junkies takes offense to this. He says, and I quote, "Are you trying to start something?" He then grabs the roomie who asked him to leave. Oh no. Oh hell no. This little shit walks into our apartment uninvited and pulls this. We are not having any of this. No, sir. Junkie is yelling, "You trying to start something with me?" over and over. has also pulled that chest-puffing personal space violation shit while grabbing and shaking the roommate who asked him to leave. His face is maybe 3 inches from the roommate's. Roommate just fucking headbutts him. Other roommate piles onto him while he's reeling. The other junkie is having to deal with me. It is 3 a.m. I am hot. I am cranky. I am 6'3". I am also fully naked. And I am now holding a machete to his throat. Roommates have wrestled his buddy out the front door and thrown him down the stairs to the first floor. I walk my boy out using the machete. We shut the door and bolt it. So naturally, that's it, right? Nope. One of them is now trying to kick the door in, after getting run out by a large, angry, naked man with a machete. Okay, I give the machete to one of my roomies, tell him to start chopping if the door gives. I go to my room and open the closet, where my gun case is. There is a quiet whisper of something in drunken Russian on the wind as I pull out my rifle, model 1891-30, and put a few rounds in, a fixed bayonet. I am now a large, angry, naked man with an antique ballistic spear. Go to the door, chamber around as loudly as possible. Yell that I have a gun, I will use it, and that they need to fuck right off. They keep on kicking at the door. Roomies are at the door ready to strike should it give. I tell them to stand clear and cover their ears. Shoot through the door. Bad, yes, but there was nothing but brick behind them and they had fair warning. Hear one of them yell loudly, but get this, still going at the door. PCP is a hell of a drug. Door gives. Roommate starts swinging the machete. Knocks the junkie down the stairs again. He runs off this time, blood everywhere. Other junkie has also disappeared. Call the cops. Nothing ever turns up. Be skittish the rest of the night. Epilogue. We found out later that the blood in the apartment before the fighting was from one of them having broken a window downstairs to get into the apartment building. We figure he cut himself on it, and my neighbors were terrified of me after that because the gunshot brought several of them out, where they saw me, naked, with a nugget, pointing down the stairs. But that's basically the craziest one. Never found out if I actually hit one of them.
This just happened. My mom's brother has been in jail for 36 years for killing 3 men and just got out and was coming to a family reunion, which was early this morning. Shows up blue jeans, rugged-looking Western-looking top, old-looking tie, and a cowboy hat. He has long black hair and a slightly rugged beard and a scar across his left eye, which is dead white, obviously blind from it. Scariest motherfucker I've ever seen, and nervous having him around my 2 kids. Grilling burgers, he comes over and hands me a beer and starts asking about my life and how things are. Says he's sorry for not being around. Wish he could have been around when I was a kid and helped my mama raise me. I was broke growing up, came home from school one day and all our furniture was sitting in the ditch and police making sure we left broke. This guy looks into my eyes and asks why I seem so nervous. I'm honest and tell him, and he says to come talk to him later and he'll tell me what happened over a beer. While my family is playing volleyball, he tells me his story. In Indiana, got in a fight over a card game with 3 red guards, one of which was a cop. Red guards tried to cheat him, and when he caught on, they tried to stab him. He shot them dead, and the jury was full of red guards, even with 2 witnesses and the officer having a slight record. He was put in jail. We get talking a bit more, and he asks if I am a weapons person. I say yeah, and he says he can't legally own any guns, and he has a house full and would be happy if he gave them to me. I agree, and afterwards we drive him home. He has a tiny trailer set up on my mom's land. Old steamer chest, heavy as hell. We take it outside, open it up, and Jesus Christ, I'm not going to say what I found due to ATF watching this board, but I don't have to go out to buy another gun ever.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.